Oh, the desktop audio isn't set. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Okay, volume looks good. But the VTuber is not working. Oh, there we go. There we go. There he is. Oh my god, look at him go. Whoa. Alright, give me 1 second, everybody. One second. I'm pulling up the comments on my phone so I can see what's going on. I don't care. I want to see chat filter, all messages. There you go. Alright, hopefully it will show the messages. Whoa, dude. Hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm back to streaming today. We've got a streaming day. Alright, let's do this. Hello, hello. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was, like, right next to an Ice Peaks biome last time. Alright, whatever. How is everybody today? Oh, hey, yeah, hello. I guess you're in Europe or something. It's almost 8, actually, so I'm actually an hour late. I showed up an hour late because I was like, oh, wait, shit, it's already, like, it's already, like, 7:09, fuck. Yeah, I'm fine on food. I don't need to kill these guys. Is it laggy? I'm not watching it, so I don't know. Let me check the stream just to be sure. Oh, it might be. Oh yeah, there seems to be lag. Give me a second. Shoot, it's... Okay, there's definitely, like, issues with the internet connection. So, let's see, is the stream... Oh yeah, there seems to be lag. Give me a second. Shoot, it's... Okay, there's definitely, like, issues with the internet connection. Alright, how is it now? I was just checking the stream and it just jumped to, when it reconnected. So... How are the connection issues now? Okay, alright, I think I fixed the problem, so no worries. Do I have a lot of tabs open? Well, I do. I could probably close a few. I don't think that's the reason why, but yeah, I could close a few. That probably might help a little. I think it's probably more an internet connection thing. Oh boy. So. Alright. So, I'm currently writing another piece. I was gonna write this piece about, like, what Felix was involved in with, like, homosexual stuff, but I'm writing this other thing first. And it's taking longer than I thought it would, because of course it is. So, oh, there's the Ice Peaks again. And, you know, so there's that. I'm looking pretty forward to it though, because it's kind of like it's about like it's it's like a it's like an anti-fascist essay. That's what I'll say. I don't want to spoil it too much. Oh my god, I got suffocation damage there. That's really funny. Whee! Oh my god, this is almost a little too much. Oh, I'm becoming boomer. Instead of calling it Detroit Become Human, they should have called it Detroit Become Boomer, because like that's what actually happened. All the boomers ran away from Detroit in 1967. Well, it wasn't the boomers well, it probably started with some boomers. I don't know. Yeah, I think that you're right. Spiky thing. I think you're on the money with that. Like, I think that's what the whole like meme war is all about and everything. Like, the problem is that like they got the whole micropolitics of desire thing down, but they don't really have the machines thing down because they're like a bunch of Python coders who think that you can write code for every system because they only use Python. Ugh, my audio is cutting in and out. Are you fucking serious? Oh my god. Okay, so the mic is okay. How about now? Am I okay now? I know there's like a little bit of lag between the stream and what I'm playing on the game. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think I'm downloading anything. Let me see. Well, internet speed seems alright. Hello? There's my YouTuber moving properly. Okay. Is my audio okay now? Or no? Let me see. It's still happening? Very odd. Let me see. I don't want to stop streaming because if I do that, it's going to let me see. Is there a possibility to reconnect? Let me see. Let me check something. It's gotta be that. It's definitely not memory related. I mean, I'm doing fine, but I'm trying to figure out let me see what the stream is like right now. I'm gonna see. Go to live. Thank you. Let's see what it's like. Let's see. I mean, I'm doing fine, but I'm trying to figure out Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go on and I'll try to fix this once I'll just go on from now because I think it's working. Oh okay, those are wolves, not bears. Wait, those are pigs. Okay. But yeah, I'm doing all right today. I'm actually kind of down, but like it's not like the end of the world or anything. Oh, maybe it's just their computer. It could be just their computer, and I was just like freaking out over nothing. Well, oh my god, that one's got a cub. Holy shit, I gotta stay away from that. Oh my god. Why did they add polar bears? That's like the worst mob. Okay, that's a lie. The worst mob is the phantom, but the polar bear sucks. Like, it's not memorable like the phantom. At least the phantom is memorably sucky. Game design tip. I want to make a game where like you have to like one of the mini games has you like speed running like a pre-generated world of Minecraft, and you have to like basically do like bullshit steps that are like going to the Ender Dragon or whatever. That is something I should actually look into later. I actually do not know the answer to that question. That actually sounds like something really interesting I want to look into, though. I just don't know the answer to it because, like, look, I'm like a cowboy programmer who worked in like the industry for like on and off for 10 years. And I have a couple of additional years of experience with just like doing Java and like ROM hacking and stuff. Like I'm not like the best computer scientist, but I am learning a lot of stuff about this stuff, and it's like so that is actually something I totally want to look into because that sounds really interesting and related to my work. Like playing catch up is like one of the worst things about fucking dealing with this shit. It's everybody's trying to show off how much of a reader they are, and here I am like, oh fuck, I came from the dumb family. Oh hello. See, like the way I see it, this might like lead you into the direction of where I might develop my thesis once I kind of like take a look at this. But like the way I see it, right, is that um first off, I think we need to like figure out what computation means in kind of like the context of Guattarian schizoanalysis, right? Like what does it actually mean to be computed, right? Cuz like it's not just an abstract thing, right? We need to understand like why an adder. Oh my god. We need to understand why an adder can exist in like a physical form. Like why is it that an adder can both exist as like a circuit that you can actually make with like wires, right? But also as something in Minecraft with redstone. Yeah, of course you can join the Discord. You just have to have an introduction. Just don't be like an asshole on purpose. We're actually pretty open to a lot of different people. So, we're not like picky. Yeah, it's in my description usually. If it's not in this like video, I don't know if I put it in this one. It should also be on the links on my channel. Yep, go ahead. Although I probably won't. You probably won't be able to get in until I'm done unless my moderator is online. So, but yeah. Excuse me. But yeah, I think we need to figure out exactly what computation means in like a Guattarian like context first to answer that question. Like, because like it's something that kind of occurred to me when I was like talking to these like EA people, right? I think like that's kind of a question that it needs to be answered. And I don't really know if I'm actually even the best person to answer that question because, like, I feel like this is kind of like a group effort. I know some things, but I don't know if I could answer this question on my own. But I think that it would be helpful to kind of establish where the grounds of such a subject might lie within the discourse of schizoanalysis, because I do think it like exists somewhere in this like process, and I need to analyze it in more depth because I've been starting to kind of learn more about like how this is like pulling together. I've been reading like parts of translations of Schizoanalytic Onion's work for the field of fuzzy possibles, I think it's called, and something like that. And it helps kind of like it helps because you can like it's a very constructive process that is not like doesn't have a clear end. It's not like it's understood exactly where he's hoping to tie this whole theory together at, right? Instead it's kind of like evolving constantly throughout his career. All right. Yeah. Hmm. See, like I said, I don't know if that's actually necessarily true or not. I would have to really analyze like the the thesis in detail. I think what you're saying is right. I've been kind of like just trying to reread it like every few times, and I do think you are right. Because like essentially like I guess what the question becomes is like okay, so like if we think of like assembler running on a little chip, right? The computation is occurring physically on the CPU, right? There's like an electrical thing going on in the CPU as it processes each instruction, and it goes through the registers and it does the little CPU dance, right? And then it is like cycled to process a bunch of instructions really fast, right? And like that's an important part of understanding what a processor does, because if you do operations that, for example, for some reason overheat the processor, you can damage it, which impacts what those instructions actually do when they are run. So I think and the thing is that in order to see like yeah, the thing is you have to ask yourself what is like being computed, I think, right? And on a computer, right? Like what's being processed through the machine of a computer? It's not just numbers. Numbers are being represented on a surface of something. What's being processed in the machine, like a factory of the computer, is the electric charges and their locations. Like where do they exist on the physical RAM? What's their arrangement on the hard drive? That's why you can, take a hard drive, remove it from somebody's computer, and read it as long as it's not encrypted. That's why you nuke your hard drives, everybody. Like with donations and stuff, like people can find your photos and stuff. Sorry, I was drinking coffee. But yeah, so like I would have to like read it in more detail though, because it's like a really. I feel like I would have some very nuanced take to say to it. I just don't know very much about computer science. I'm a, one possible. I think that's actually not too far off. Like machines are they're not I wouldn't say the definition of machine and system are exactly the same, but I would say that like a system is almost like a diagram of a machine in a certain way, not necessarily like a visual diagram, but like an abstract representation of the flows of how the machine operates. Computation is teleological, is what I am getting at. Computation is teleological. You know what? That might be because of the fact that like maybe like what this is like in terms of the definition of what like computation is, right? Like what I said earlier was if it's teleological, right? Then oh my god, totally forgot what I was gonna say. Give me a second. If it's teleological, then like, oh yeah, if it's teleological, then maybe what that may act it may actually be because of the consequence of it being kind of like a representation system. And what I mean by that is that like so like what makes something teleological, I think, like what makes something have like a where is it actually going to go, right? What direction is it going to go? Is like if we look at a system, right? We can measure where things are going to travel. We can measure like the end destination of things based on like how they're processed and things like that. And I think the reason why it has that ability is because of the if you look at a system, right? A system has boundaries, right? It has structure to it, right? Like as you state. And I think what makes this significant and different and interesting now I'm kind of like getting my brain running with this, right? Cuz this is this is not this is an interesting way that I have not thought of before. But like I think what is interesting about this is that what actually like kind of makes just the world going forward not theological in of itself, right? And maybe what that means is that the world is not inherently computational. There is a computation occurring in part of it, right? But the world itself or the existence itself is not inherently computational, right? It's just the fact that there are things going on that are beyond representation, right? And you see what I'm trying to get at? Like, so basically, the system itself has like representations, has structures, has things trying to, formulate things, right? See, I'm trying to connect this into like what do you call it? Like what I'm like understand about schizoanalysis, right, or Guattarian schizoanalysis, right? And so like basically what it's kind of doing is that part of it is kind of like deterritorialized, right? Not having any sort of structure, right? And then part of it is having like a structure to it, right? And the thing is that the structure essentially produces a bunch of essentially possibilities. We can think of it almost kind of like in a like almost kind of like a possibility cloud, right? And essentially, where the chaos or the things that we can't predict or like the possible like breaks or whatever happen is like I think the way to think of it is kind of like a glitch in the code or a loop or a bug in the code, right? So like it allows us to access things that kind of like escape the structures of what we assumed that the computation was going to be doing. Like if we think about this in the context of like a video game, like Pokemon Red and Blue, right? Missing No. What really makes Missing No's behavior interesting and unusual, right, is its ability to essentially move outside of the boundaries, or even you could say walk through walls. Ooh, I said the word, guys. Its ability to kind of like break down the boundaries that actually built the structure of the assumptions that the game programmers had when designing like the game and the narrative and everything. And so like it's interesting because it's almost like I feel like where I'm going with this, and like I said, I'm kind of like really spitballing with something that I'm not familiar with. I really need to actually sit down and look at this, right? But I think where I'm getting at with this is that like essentially what produces. I think like what I'm getting at is that like you can't argue that like the entire universe is like computational because you know if there is like a if you can predict the end of every flow and where it will end up, right, through a structure, right, and we don't fully get that result because the way that the codes overlap because of the way that they're implemented in order to have a physical representation in the first place, then yeah. That I would have to spend a lot of time thinking about. Oh my gosh, you're asking the hard questions tonight. Because entropy is directly related to deterritorialization, right? So like entropy is like it's not necessarily in a thermodynamic context. Like basically what Deleuze and Guattari are stressing is that like it's essentially like it's essentially a process that functions like entropy where like over time essentially the I hate the term randomness. I'm trying to remember like the best way to describe it. I mean, I know physicists have the same problem. It's kind of like the if we think about like oh yeah, the example I like to give with people is like think about somebody who died, right? Somebody who dies, their body deterritorializes, right? It's not like they disappear, but like who they are breaks apart into like their memory and like their like belongings and their body and things like that, and like over time those things break down, etc., etc. And you kind of see where I'm getting with this, where it's just kind of like who they are spreads out over time, and then over time it becomes unclear where the boundaries are between who that person is, right? And so I just I mean it's like I wonder if like you could argue that what computation is in like a Guattarian framework is like the the essentially the what do you call it, like a particular system of representation that can be used to describe like a particular system, like almost like a diagram or something, like and it doesn't have to be like a specifically like linguistic representation. But I'd have to think a lot about that. That's a really interesting and good question because, that's something I want people to take seriously. Like, what if like we could apply these ideas to like the discussion of computation? Like, what does computation mean in the context of schizoanalysis? You know, I think that's a really important question, especially for like these simulation theory people, because like I think like yeah, okay, code runs on machines is a convincing argument for people who are like artists and stuff, but that's not really a convincing argument for people who like look at Python all day. So like, I have to like think of something a little bit more sophisticated, and that's actually a really good like interesting thing to explore because if everything is a simulation, I think that would also mean that everything is a system of representations, right? Like that's really the problem with a simulation, right? Being stuck in like an infinite simulation would be like everything is a representation and there's no connection to the real. It would be like being completely disconnected from reality, right? Um, but and I want to clarify that's not what schizophrenia is, right? Like schizophrenia isn't like being completely disconnected from reality. It's actually the dissolution of all of the representations of reality. It's like everything is happening all at once because there's no place for it to happen, if that makes sense. Because a place would require like a representation or a system of representation in order to exist. I hope the messages haven't frozen again. Give me a second. Oh no, they haven't frozen. Good. I hope I didn't sound completely stupid saying that. I probably sounded a little stupid, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. Honestly, it gives me a lot more to read about, which I actually think that's really interesting. I really want to look into that. Like like I said, I'm making up for just the fact that I've kind of had to survive. My main objective for the first 30 years of my life was to survive. Yeah, that would be good. It would also be good for like it would also be good for like kind of connecting the sources in his research and his citations. Like I want to actually the thing is that like I'm really kind of like struggling in real life right now, which is why my research has been kind of just like I'm gonna do what I can to teach people some things, but I do want to go through schizoanalytic cartographies and go through like the various. Oh my gosh, there's a Savannah. Um, but yeah, go through schizoanalytic cartographies and like try to first map out what he's talking about. You're getting me excited. Like you're hyping me up, so but yeah, I think that would be important too because like just understanding like his possible references, where he's getting his ideas from, like he's like he's referencing like a million things, and sometimes he doesn't like cite his sources. So it would be good for historical purposes too. But yeah, so like basically one of my projects, hopefully, even though I'm running behind on everything, is to first like kind of get a good cartography of the schizoanalytic cartographies, like actually like understand what the fuck he's trying to say. He's like so just like has no idea how to communicate what the hell he's trying to say. And it's weird because he uses exactly the terms that like make sense, and then you're like, wow, okay, I get it. That's why it's so hard to say, because it's like just a really, I don't know, like maybe there's like some kind of math nerd who's figured out the perfect like analog to this, and they're just like, what the fuck, this guy came up with this shit independently. That'd be really funny if that happened. Sadly not a plateau, but oh well. Oh wait, there. Oh no, that's a mountain. Would you say that systems are what lead to structure? Hmm. I'd have to really think about that one. I kind of want to say yeah, because I think structure is like what do you call it? Oh, I already have enough. I just destroyed these poor people's whatever. Um, I think structure is like inherently like a semiotic thing, right? Where it's like there's signs that interact with each other. It's kind of like, you know, things like that. But systems. Oh my god, really? Are you kidding me? Get off of there. Okay, getting back, getting back on subject. um, systems. I think systems are pre-signifying. So, but that's kind of just like that's the thing. I really need to figure out where these definitions fit around how essentially I understand how it fits because I want to make sure I'm like answering the right question. You know what I mean? But I think based on what I understand of systems, like it would be like pre-structural. But that's just my like vibe. That's the thing. You guys are asking me really hard questions that I would need like a whole like just like research and shit to like really think about. It's fine. I don't mind. It gives me really interesting things to research about actually. I'm actually it's nice to have a break from like all the like queer stuff sometimes just cuz it's like, oh, this is depressing. And then oh, this is cool. But then sometimes you just want to read about computers, and that's the thing, like that's the other half of being queer. You like have nerdy hobbies like computers and shit like that. Like category theory. I used to I wish I knew more about math. That's kind of like one of my big shames. Well, yes, well, semiotics are produced by structure. Not all struct. Now the thing is, not all structures are semiotic, right? But all semiotics have structure. Wait, let me read this. Ooh, that's very interesting. I think. Yeah, yeah. I need to get into category theory now. Definitely, you're getting me hyped on this. Because now I'm looking at it and I'm just like, when I realized that, like, okay, so like, this was kind of like a weird personal experience, but like, what kind of made me like move in the direction of being interested in Guattari and like taking his work like really seriously. Okay, I'm gonna count that as a plateau. We might actually have a plateau today, guys. Um, but yeah, what made me take Guattari's like work like more seriously was when I was crazy, right? Um, I it was really hard. Like going crazy is really terrifying because it's like your brain is like glitching the fuck out, but instead of like you don't just crash, you just keep going because your brain doesn't crash like a computer does. It just keeps processing and processing and processing until you like actually like die of something, right? So, um, when that's happening, you can imagine that the data corruption is worse and worse and worse as it progresses, and it's really terrifying experience, and would not recommend. But now it's just a thing that happens, and that is I have to deal with, and it's not like I hate myself for it or anything. But you know, nobody asks to be the way that they are, I guess. But anyways, what really helped me deal with that struggle, right, was give me a second. I'm marking this. Um, we got 13. Come on. How do I edit this? Oh. Um, there you go. All right. Nice. Badlands. Oh my god, we can get even more plateaus. And there's plateaus over there. Okay, that's great. All right. These are the shorter plateaus. But yeah, when I was psychotic, basically what really helped me as like me to stabilize over time, especially with like the help of antipsychotics, was kind of like realizing that, okay, my brain is producing a bunch of signs because it's fucked up. Like when you fuck up your game with missing no, right? Like it's reading the sprites wrong now because the data's corrupted, right? And that's how it works on a Game Boy, but my brain is a billion times more complicated than a Game Boy, right? So I just have to focus on why, what am I observing and what could be producing this, right? And that was something that it didn't like cure my illness. I had to like, have a genuine medical intervention to stop the progression of it. But I what that did was not only did it slow it down, but it gave me a means to actually like recover and like deal with it as like I would have like sort of like rebounds in the future. So I realized that at the very least he was like onto something when trying to understand how schizophrenia works. And like I know I'm not diagnosed schizophrenic, but like what I experienced was very schizo. So like, I think it could help a lot of people to kind of like understand that relationship. Oh my goodness, look at these mountains. What is the difference between a mountain and a plateau now? Did they take them out with like terrain generation or something? Because I liked the plateaus. Oh, there's a plateau. Maybe I'm wrong. That sounds really interesting. I have no idea how to do that. But please tell me what you come up with, because that sounds actually really interesting. Ooh, there's a plateau. There's two plateaus. There's like two huge plateaus. That's crazy. That's really weird. I've never seen anything like that before. Oh wait, I didn't count that last one. Ha, yeah. There's probably like at least 3 PhD theses that you've already just like presented as like topics. Ooh, spider. Ooh, I have an itch. Give me a second. Ugh. See, it's funny because, like, I look pretty young for my age, but I am definitely in my 30s and I can feel it. My body is not reacting well to getting older, which is so funny. I'm going to count these two things as plateaus because I feel like it. I mean, who am I to have force structures? Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to impose my dream on everyone. My dreams of structure. Ha ha ha. I'm the one who decides what is a plateau and what is not a plateau. That's right, I'm gazing upon you with the faciality machines. Look at how I'm using this to calculate these numbers in a binary. Oh shit, how am I gonna get over there safely? Without, I guess I'm gonna have to bridge. But first, I'm gonna have a nap. Are you in the server? You should join. You get some interesting stuff. I would actually be. We do have some like programmers, but like less computer science people. So it'd be kind of cool to have some more intersection with that. Alright. I like the sound effects that they've added to the game. They've added like oh they've added oh shit. They've added the sound of like dust blowing. It's quite nice. But yeah. So see, what's interesting I think about Guattari is that his answer to like so like let's take the whole like I think that my like let's analyze the whole argument that I had against like simulation theory as like kind of like just a stock thing for like people who are not like seriously trying to argue. Oh, I know, I know. I'm saying that I mean you kind of are like you're not like a you're not like a student, okay? But like I'm a historian, okay? I consider myself a historian. But like I'm an amateur historian, okay? There's a difference. You know, I have to spend $3,000 to go to a conference about my subject, while a lot of people who are students can have that subsidized by their university, and that's an advantage of being aligned with a university. But being independent also allows you to you know explore a lot of things in a direction without having to be trying to prove to someone what your funding is worth. So no, it's actually valuable to have people who read like stuff like that. It's just oh wait, I don't want to do that. It is just well, that's not true for all needs. Some needs for sure. Like I've definitely met lots of actually a lot of disabled neets are like that. Like it's so funny like how much more about medicine that like disabled neets know about like shit about medicine than like 99% of people talking on the internet. It's actually hilarious. And it's because like all they do is like read like research papers on the illness that makes it so that they can't work. So they're just like, oh, so that's why my body fucks up because it's like complicated like protein chain that happens like in the synthesis of some like whatever. And then they like become like experts in their illness or whatever, and then like some fucking idiot like whatever is just like, yeah, well, how the world works is how I say it is, because like you know science rules, and it's like, yeah. So but I've definitely met neets who are not like that though, and like, yeah. Well, I mean, if I was like, see, the thing is that I have to keep working, which just sucks. Like, it sucks beyond belief because it's like working while you have like a significant disability sucks ass unless you find like a good workplace that like actually works well with you, and you're still like dealing with the problems of being in a workplace. So, you know. But I know, right? Oh my god. Imagine the Guattari imagine the Guattari quote that I posted today on the post tab, but with neats instead of prostitutes. That'd be so fucking funny. Just disabled neats. Disabled needs advanced research of rare diseases in the most efficient way possible. Like, that's the thing that like blows my mind about this, like these stupid fucking arguments about like, okay, I'm not gonna uh jump to those ones, but I'm just gonna make a mark to represent that I've been at that one, and that one, and then this one, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, whatever. Like, I think that's the thing that effective altruists don't understand about like the efficiency of funding. Like, you know who would be the most efficient? The people who like literally have every motivation in the world to understand how their disease works. Whoa, look at this crazy ass terrain. This is like some freaking fantasy terrain. Holy shit. What the fuck is that? That's crazy. That's crazy shit. But yeah, no, interesting conversation we're having today. See, I don't usually, I do read like research papers, but usually it's like for me to like verify an example of a subject. Usually I'm actually reading primary texts. I do read secondary texts sometimes, but I just really like reading Guattari. Like, that's what this channel is all about, really. Like, at the end of the day, the like, okay, so like, yeah, of course I'm trying to promote my favorite author, and some people might be like, oh, that's some people might be like, I'm too pushy about Guattari or whatever. I mean, that's kind of the point of the channel, because I really like this guy and I want to like, discuss him from a historical point of view and be like a resource on that. But that's kind of the thing. I want to be like historically accurate. Yeah, that would be fucking funny. Oh my god, I'd watch the shit out of that. On the bus, there was like a very, I think he was a schizo or like a drug person or something. I think it was more schizo though. He was like telling me that like God was judging me for having a cane, because I started walking with a cane recently, and it's been like really, a major improvement on my life actually, because I would get really tired from walking everywhere, and I thought my body would adjust to it, but it really didn't. It was not adjusting to it at all. And like, he went on this like crazy rant about how like, you know, God is like judging me and punishing me or something. And I thought that was like really dumb for like, from just like from like a theological point of view, because like, maybe God made me this way because I'm just stronger and I had to exist this way, like, whatever. I have to, my legs aren't that good in my 30s. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm in my 30s, there's people who have to deal with that shit half my age, so like whatever. So, that's how I see it. Peter Singer versus Animal. Okay, can I just okay, I've been like talking to myself about this all day cuz it kind of like bothers me, and that's kind of how I help formulate my ideas, cuz it's hard to formulate my ideas in my head, I guess. Um but like I really don't like how Singer just jumps to the Z word so readily. And like, here's the thing, right? I want to stress, okay? Everybody who says that, oh, he's saying that because he's into the Z word, right, is like wrong, okay? I don't think this is like some kind of like, oh, I'm repressed and I'm like expressing whatever. Like, that's not what's going on here, right? This has nothing to do with that, right? The problem is that like that whole argument just trivializes like just assault in general. Like, here, I'll explain it. Just give me a second. I found another thing I'm counting as a plateau. Haha, faciality strikes again. But yeah, like, what the hell is that noise? Oh, it's these armadillo things. But yeah, like, the problem with that argument is like, at the end of the day, so like, let's think about eating meat for a second, right? So like, these guys are really concerned about people eating meat. They think that's like worse than almost anything else you can do to an animal, right? And I think this is already flawed because I think the vegans' concern is not necessarily just eating meat. Like, that's a consequence of their concerns, but like the real thing they're concerned about is like the well being of the animal, right? Like, above all else, they care about the well being of the animal, and like in this particular case, um, the industrial farm is like what they have like really a problem with, which I agree with, like, totally. But like, if we look at it from like, again, from the point of view of eating meat, which is what these people are focused on, right? And yes, they're all vegans for some reason. I don't know what that's about other than the whole Peter Singer thing. Um, and they don't seem to even be aware that it's all Peter Singer shit. Like, they kind of stare at you like a deer in the headlights because they genuinely have no idea it's that deterritorialized. They won't look into it either because they think you're stupid. Um, ooh, that must be one of those calcite things. Um, anyways, but yeah, the problem I have with it is that like it goes kind of like back to the whole, like, remember the meme about like the girl in the forest choosing between the bear and the man, right? And a lot of women picked a lot of people picked the bear over the man, and a lot of men got really pissy about this all over social media. It was really dumb. And like, if you think about it, right, being eaten by a bear really sucks, right? But I think some of the things that a man can do to you is going to suck a lot more. And that's because a man is somebody who doesn't see you as a meal, just a meal, right? Like, but also as like a whole set of like existential relations that don't even exist between you and an animal. And like, I think that the real problem with bringing up this stupid argument all the fucking time is that it just trivializes, sexual assault. Like, we can talk about, why do we have to talk about this, right? Like, why is a man who is some like whitey hoity-toity guy talking about something that he clearly has no experience with? Some men can be bears. I don't have an opposition to all bears. I'm just saying. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, no, like, I guess you get what I'm saying, basically, where it's like the the problem with that equivocacy is that like it forces you to say something like, oh well, this is worse than, you know, sexual assault, and it's just like at that point, like, what are you doing, right? Like, why are you making a tier list for the worst possible things that can happen to women? That kind of seems like a weird fantasy. You know, like it's like you're producing something that's really kind of fucked up. And I think a lot of people just don't think about it that way. Like they don't think about it that way because they're not like they don't think of themselves as potential victims of this kind of behavior. Oh yeah, that's kind of the point. Like obviously the objective of the 1,000 plateaus stream is going to last a long time, and it's going to make a huge file, which is going to be really funny. I'm going to share the file size of the world when we finally get to the 1,000th plateau. Let's see what coordinates I'm at. I'm probably at something stupid. Um. Oh my god, I'm already 10,000 blocks out in one direction. What the hell? Actually, it's 12,000. But yeah, I think it works out really well for like a kind of podcast stream where I can just kind of talk about stuff. And I want to be kind of like chill in some of my content, you know. I want people to be able to watch my stuff and be like, hey, this person isn't all just throwing long strings of word at me all the time. It's really funny. Somebody told me the other day, they're like, yeah, some of your videos are just kind of like, in other words, let me throw all these words at you that sound literally just like what Guattari said. Like, fuck. Like, you read him and you're like, okay, I gotta explain this shit, but how do I explain it without just sounding like him? Ugh, I know that, you know what? People have said that for years, and I've just never figured out exactly what I want to do with it. But I should talk to my friends. That might be actually a good idea. Could schizoanalysis be a way of analyzing religious experiences? Of course. I mean, religious experiences are like, you know, are literally a relationship between um, like the field of all the so-called functors or whatever. Not the functors, the quads. I don't remember exactly what they're called. The functors, I think, are the relations between them. I don't remember. No, actually, the functors are the four quads. Whatever. Tells you how much I need to catch up on this shit. That's why I tell people to read. Just use Onion's channel. Like, I'm trying to get people into this and think about it and apply it to new things, while Onion is providing like a lot of the research into the theory and stuff. But Onion's very busy with like doing a ton of translations. So, but yeah, schizoanalysis could absolutely be used to analyze religious experiences, in my opinion, and I think would be a really valuable way to do it. I mean, I know it's not the same thing, but I found it very valuable to analyze like my experiences with like hallucinations and delusions and stuff, and like because of that, I was able to kind of like make sense of it in a way that was like not not like destructive, or as destructive as it could have been, and I think it really helped me in a lot of ways. But I think like I think like a big difference is that with religion you have kind of like a whole history of like stuff with analyzing the texts that you're analyzing, and the histories and narratives and things like that. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, in order to explain Guattari, you kind of have to get possessed by him. Like, that's kind of what happens to everybody who tries to explain him, I think. Once you get used to it, it's really not that bad. I think he's easier than Deleuze because he's a lot more like direct with his ideas. And once you're under, like, it's really just like with, it's really just getting through his language. Well, like, I think I would even go as far as to say I think it's like problem, and Guattari said this too, but I think it's problematic that we don't take the experiences of like schizophrenics seriously. Like, what I experienced when I was crazy, like, is a big foundation of like what I like understand theoretically. Like, it's just how I see the world now, and um, it helps me like deal with things. It helps me. It's functional for me, right? And um, I guess, and I'm not trying to say like it's the realest thing in the world for everyone else, but it helps me so much that I feel like understanding it is very important to me, and seeing its different applications and stuff. And it makes me realize like just how much the world is like constructed based off of like not just like structural power, but male power. Like, you realize just like how much like the male racist power structures power and that structure like our relations with like biology and gender and things like that. It's really interesting. And the thing is that I think it's completely compatible. I think what's really cool about Guattari is because of his interest in semiotics and stuff. I think there is like real value in like analyzing how he analyzes systems just in general, because like it can be applied to so many like different circumstances. It's just that it hasn't really been done yet because nobody took it seriously because fucking Nick Land came into the picture. What are you gonna do though? The new music in Minecraft is actually not that bad. I think it fits the aesthetic of the game well. I want to make a game so bad though. I've been like writing down notes for it now. Like, I'm being serious about it now. But yeah, like going back to arguments against simulation theory, because I think something that was interesting that was going on about that I kind of lost my place on that I want to kind of go back to is like so of course the argument that I've been giving that's kind of just like meant as kind of like to get people started thinking about these things is just telling people like, hey, codes run on machines, right? But what does that mean, right? Like, could it be that all of the codes that we experience are capable of running on a single uniform machine? That would be super absolutely interesting, and I'd suggest you do it. And I think you would find that a lot of other Deleuzian types would be very interested in that research. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, um, yeah. So like, then the question becomes like, well, what if the machines that are running on everything are ones that always produce like a computational result, right? Like, what if it's always computational? Because if it is always computational, then you know that means a simulation can still be produced. That's just a simulation that's running on a machine that we have no access to. Yes, I do want to do a video on becoming woman. Um, I just don't know exactly what I want to do with it, and I always get like nervous about it because like, so I'm a trans man, right? So I have very complicated feelings about becoming woman, and that's not negative feelings. I actually think becoming woman's really cool, but I have complicated feelings about like gender because I'm a trans man, and I want to like be very like, I want to be very solid with how I approach these complicated issues, which have to be approached to understand what it means to be becoming woman as a trans man. But yeah, Because I think that trans men are also becoming women, but it's not like they're like, I think the way to describe it is like they're becoming a new kind of woman, not like a woman like the kind that they were assigned at birth, if that makes sense. Like a woman that is so much of a feminist that she's able to steal the signifiers of a man and become like a man in her life and everything, to the point where she stops being a she and becomes a he. That's how I usually say it. Yeah, I'll label this as a plateau. It's a little one, but it's a plateau. But yeah, going back to the thing I was saying, I'm finding a lot of plateaus today. Definitely not because of the faciality machine. Ignore the faciality machine. Yeah, that would be super cool. So like I want to make a video game that kind of does something, it's not quite like that, but like I want to have it be where like essentially you're analyzing different machine, you're what you're doing is you're analyzing and changing the state of different machines and trying to have them organized differently together so that they have better like stats in battle or whatever kind of shit. So it wouldn't be like a magic system per se, but be more like a battle system, I think is a better term for it. But that's kind I want to make a game like that. And yeah, I want to make a game where like the battle system is based on schizoanalysis. I've been trying to figure out how this would work, and I think I finally have something. Ah, yes, the one block wonder. Um, yeah, I think I finally have something, but it's gonna like I need to think about how I want to design it, like graphically. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make like a prototype for the back end of it, right? So like all the game function stuff, and then make like a prototype for the graphics, and then make the final draft of the graphics for like presentation purposes to get people on board with the project. But yeah. So again, going back to my original subject, lol. Um, a lot of this going on, bounce, bounce, bounce. So basically, okay, you know what? I need to take a break from this. This is giving me a headache. Fuck this. So, basically, to go back to arguments against simulation theory, right? So, how do we know that we're not just on a machine that will always produce a computational result, right? How do we know that we're on a machine that doesn't just always produce a computation which can produce like a simulation that produces ourselves? Well, the problem with this, right, is that, like I said with um, the case of missing no, right, there is a difference between what the codes burned into the ROM chip do and what your code does in your head as you understand it as a programmer, right? And that's going to be true for anyone. That's why bugs exist, because if we knew exactly how the code worked in every single possible formulation, we would know exactly like how the end result of every single possible arrangement of values could be over time and how it impacts the system. And yes, every single line of code that's run increases entropy in the system, right? So, um, you know, the problem really becomes it's completely impractical, obviously, to analyze code in that way when it's more than just like a very simple machine, right? Um, so, and even in those simple machine problems, like when we try to implement them, right, we have to construct a representation of those implementations. So, like, for example, we have to build them in like, you know, particular diagrams and not just diagrams of representation, which are already having asignifying components, but then also we have to construct them in a physical material to actually even be able to like materialize those representations in real life, like with a chip processor or something. And then at that point, you already have two things that are producing components that are not being signified by the the representations to be able to even construct the representations in the first place. So like, I think okay. So I'm trying to remember the axes of the four functors. Um, I think it's the possible and the actual and the virtual and the real. I'm not sure. I might be mixing up real and actual. That's the one I always mix up. But basically, the idea is that possibilities are basically like you have to think of it as like one part of the process is splitting up all of the possibilities that could possibly happen, right? Like just from a particular arrangement. Like think of it almost like a system that has no inputs or outputs. It's just the representation of the system, right? That would be the possible and the virtual, right? Because it's an abstraction, right? It's not represented like physically in a material thing, right? And it's possible because it's representing all of the possibilities that could happen at a particular state, right? And then and then like if we look at so yeah, that if we look at the action that is actually taken, the function that is actually taken in from like the input of the user or whatever, what happens on the computer chip or the RAM is that it has a section for joypad input, and it will check like this bit mask to see what is pressed down, right? And it will read that value, and then that's how it interfaces with the outside world. So it basically takes inputs, which can basically be, they're not really random, but like you could just assume that they're just a range of possibilities, and the possibility map is really just dependent on the structure of the game and all these things that like are so hyper complex between the relationship between you and the processor and the interface of the controller that it's just ugh. You can see why this is so fucking interesting though. Like oh my gosh, programmers who don't know about Guattari or just think it's like crap are really missing out. Give me a second. The thing is that I don't know if like impossible worlds actually exist. Like part of the problem is that part of schizoanalysis is you have the structured structured possible, which is the virtual possible, and then you have the completely unstructured asignifying possible, which I believe is the machinic phyla. Yeah, that's another way to look at it. I kind of want to go back to that argument because it's just very interesting. Because like, I guess what I wanted to say with that is that the reason why I don't think that everything is a simulation, the real reason, right? And I might even make this into a video eventually, is because we cannot summarize the simulation into like one universal machine, right? And I don't just mean like people be like, well, what about a network of machines, huh? What about a botnet, huh? Well, the botnet is still a fucking machine. It's still one thing. It's the botnet, right? Just because it's a botnet and not like a single computer, like it's just deterritorialized. Like it's still a fucking computer. It's just a more bigger computer. It's just a bunch of computers talking to each other. Like how is that much different? Come on, this is not rocket science. But Yeah, so like basically the problem is that reality cannot be just encoded in a single universal representation because there's constant a signifying bullshit everywhere that you know is shaping your desires, is shaping how things work, and that's kind of how like uh the chaos emerges. So like if we go back to the Pokemon glitches, right? So the way that we see these a signifying structures essentially produce these codes on the screen that we observe when we experiment with glitches in Pokemon Red and Blue are caused by edge cases that were not predicted by the developers. And the reason why they weren't predicted by the developers is because the representation that they had in their minds, in their own like subjectivity, right, was limited. They had their subjectivity was based on their understanding of the code, right? So think of it like this. Like think of it like, okay, this I'm a programmer. These are my expectations for how the code is going to run and what it's going to do when it interacts with like um whatever um whatever like situations, right? And this range of situations will only be produced, right, by the system. There's no way it's going to pull out the number 255 because there's only 151 Pokemon or whatever, something like that. And that's not even true based on the way that they do the index table, but like you see where I'm getting at, right? And so basically, the problem is that the what the system actually does materially is different than what the system does in their heads and their representation, right? And that's really important because that means that the system is able to break through the representation, right? That is, and you got to remember that representation is produced by the system itself because they're analyzing the code, right? They're analyzing the thing that produces the system that produces the game, right? And so what ultimately happens is the player can then make a bunch of decisions that the developers never even thought of, right? And they're now existing in worlds of codes and subjectivities that were never intended. So like instead of when you're a child and you discover this, right? We only disclose the present virtual. Um, well, I think like it's weird. Um, yeah, exactly. Because like you got to think that like for example for like what history is still like represented in the present. Like what I believed like 50 years ago is going to be about what happened in history is going to be different than now, and the reason why is because history is a production of what's in the present, and even our understanding of history of what it was 50 years ago is also a production of what's going on in the present. Like it's kind of unavoidable. I will say this, it's kind of funny because like I understand Guattari, and it's really hard to explain to people who are new to this why this makes sense. But like, I'm not as good with Deleuze. Okay, James probably knows more about Deleuze than me. He's actually been able to get through more solo Deleuze than me. Solo Deleuze is so hard for me. I kind of need his like buddy going around and saying crazy shit every few paragraphs. That's like one of my favorite things about reading Deleuze and Guattari. They'll just be like Deleuze will just be like doing his thing, right? And it's like, okay, this is like really intense and tough, and oh man, I need to really think about what he's saying, and oh my god, what is this, what is that? And then comes his like super like nerdy friend, and he's like, hey yeah, so anyways, this is how like this shit works with like bird calls. Bird calls are so cool because they do this shit with like birds, and yeah, so like they do territories with the bird calls and they have all these different patterns. Isn't that cool? And then he like walks out of the room, and then Deleuze is like, see, he was right. Yeah, I know. Well, that's how most people are. They don't usually read Guattari. I'm kind of like a weird one. I mean, I guess that's the way he would have wanted it. That a schizo is the person who kind of like is like, hey, people, you should be reading him. But yeah, so like basically what's really cool about I think what's really cool about Guattari's like theory of schizoanalysis is that it actually does present like a really interesting alternative to simulation theory, right? Because instead of being like just a computational process, right, where like ultimately things will reach some sort of certain end, right? Um, Instead, it's this process that we'll never be able to understand or represent. And, you know, because of that, our own production as beings within it is part of its development. And the only thing that we can truly do is, you know, fulfill our desires as far as we can because um, we're doing that insofar as every action that we take is in that direction, in that like we are always doing what we desire most at any point in time, and the question should be, why are we going that direction? Why do I desire to be afraid? And that kind of thinking has helped me a lot with a lot of things in my life. So, but yeah. Ooh, I think I'm gonna call it quits soon because I'm starting to get a little sick. It might be my migraines. I hope not. But we'll see. I'm gonna mark this though, because I want to. See, my desires. No more faciality machine. Just doing it because I want to. Okay, that's not true. Anyways, I'm gonna let you go. See you guys. Nice seeing you again. I'm gonna try to do this more often, but we'll see with my schedule. Alright, bye.